In the spring of 2022, an international team of archaeologists led by Dr. Kathleen Martinez made a discovery that would send shockwaves through the world of ancient history. Their focus was a lesser-known site, the Temple of Taposiris Magna, just 20 miles west of Alexandria, Egypt. What began as a routine restoration would soon turn into one of the most tantalizing archaeological finds in decades. It all started with a small crack, barely noticeable at the base of the temple's northern wall, but hidden behind that crack was an underground world, long forgotten. During the second week of excavation, a geo-echo scanner picked up something strange, an empty space beneath layers of stone, roughly the size of a small car. With breath held and hands steady, the team began to dig, centimeter by centimeter. 3 days of careful clearing revealed a smooth limestone slab. Another day of dusting exposed something astonishing, a carved stone door. There were no hinges, no handles, only faint symbols along its edges. They weren't entirely Egyptian. The carvings merged Greek letters with hieroglyphs. One symbol in particular, the profile of a woman with a high forehead and long nose, bore a striking resemblance to the face found on coins from Cleopatra II's reign. Excitement swept the camp. Cameras clicked. Messages flew across archaeological group chats. But before anything more could happen, everything was halted. A quiet order came down. Stop all work. Egypt's Ministry of Antiquities had to inspect the discovery before it could continue. For 48 tense hours, guards surrounded the site. The door was hidden beneath thick cloth, shielded from prying eyes. When the ministry officials arrived, they were stunned. The door didn't appear on any official plans. It was expertly concealed, nearly invisible unless you knew what to look for. Removing it would take surgical precision. No breaking, no drilling. Just quiet, expert hands. Finally, after 3 hours of exacting effort, the stone door shifted. A narrow passage was revealed behind it, cut straight through solid rock. It was tight. The first explorers had to shuffle sideways with tiny cameras and flashlights. The walls were painted with faded murals in vibrant Egyptian and Greek pigments. 15 feet in, the corridor opened into a square chamber, a hidden tomb that no one had ever documented before. And there, in the still silence of this forgotten room, lay fragments of gold leaf panels and a stone sarcophagus. Along its lid were strange inscriptions in a hybrid of Greek and Egyptian. Near the sarcophagus stood another sealed door, hidden behind a limestone mast. Behind it, another chamber. Inside, a second sarcophagus, untouched for centuries. Unlike other tombs, looted over the ages, this one had been perfectly sealed. The air inside smelled of oil and frankincense. Time stood still. The coffin was sleek, with bronze pegs instead of traditional fasteners. The archaeologists moved carefully, using microblades to preserve every detail. After 4 hours, they removed the lid, and what they found inside left everyone breathless. A woman's skeleton, partially preserved, lay beneath a layer of ritual cloth. Golden bracelets decorated her wrists and ankles. Her hands were positioned in a ritualistic gesture never before seen in Ptolemaic Egypt. On the inner wall of the coffin, beneath alabaster flakes, was a faded painting, the same mysterious woman with a high forehead and narrow nose. At the foot of the tomb, a small, delicately carved golden mask. Its blue glass forehead bore an engraved cobra, the uraeus symbol of divine authority. Hidden beneath the sarcophagus, a small bone box revealed an even deeper mystery, the remains of a child, wrapped in ancient cloth. Nearby were bottles filled with oils and a tiny mirror, still intact. This wasn't just a grave, it was a story, sealed in stone, a tale of identity, lineage, and ritual hidden for over 2,000 years. And the woman inside. Some believe she could be a forgotten royal, possibly even a relative of Cleopatra herself, holding unknown powdered substances. Testing revealed traces of gold and rare metals in the dust lining the box walls near the ground. On the far wall, another curious artifact was found, some strangish covered by a slab. 3 Greek letters and a complex scorpion-like symbol had been quickly painted using alabaster paint. When the slab was lifted, human vertebrae and teeth tumbled out. Of a child around 8 or 9 years old nearby lay a bronze amulet of Thigodas, Isis, and several gold beads. Strikingly, all the artifacts pointed in no direction, toward the Nile Delta. This stop followed the burial traditions of Greco-Egyptian nobility, yet didn't match usual royal tomb layouts. Anatherfin near the main sarcophagus was a charred papyrus scroll lying off to the side. The archaeologists spent hours carefully collecting the pieces. Up an analysis, they could make out intertwine of Greek and Egyptian characters with the name Cleopatra prominently written in a Hellenistic style. Burn marks from ancient ritual fires and resin stains covered the floor and wall, suggesting an elaborate burial ceremony. The team's next mission was clear: identify the remains and uncover any link to Cleopatra, the last queen of Egypt. The air wasn't just thick with old incense, there was a sense that something given greater was still hidden, something that could rewrite history once the tambours opened. A flicker of gold in Theorem's corner caught their eye. It was a decorated box with fine engravings set perfectly inside a carved wall niche. Its seminal artwork depicted small female faces. One stood out with its high forehead and familiar nose when they compared the image to known Cleopatra coins. The resemblance was striking. A string of gold beads formed a perfect semicircle along the box's top edge, like it had been made with modern jewelry tools. Inside were 12 miniature amulets made of golden glass each, engraved with Greek name Cleopatra, and a wedge or eye of Horus symbol carved on the back. Nearby stood a large golden jar on a stone pedestal. A gilded serpent wrapped in its neck, and on its side an engraved female figure wore a crown topped with a cobra. No archaeologist had ever seen a jar like this in any tomb. Inside was dried aromatic resin, layered with shimmering lapis lazuli and misicot. The base of the jar was a tiny gold ingot, shaped like a scroll. On the back of the sarcophagus, hidden under a pile of small shards, was another artifact. A glass amulet shaped like a woman's head. Around the head was a band that clearly mirrored in ancient Greek Cleopatra that divined her neck and lips were coated in gold, and tiny turquoise pieces formed eyes barely half an ounce in weight. It was seen as the peak of Egyptian craftsmen. Behind the amulet, archaeologists found a distinct bronze ring of the edetama type featuring a carved boat design. The inside of the ring had a well-preserved made from layered white jade. It showed a woman with Cleopatra's exact hairstyle and jewelry matching what appears on her silver coins during heron. A delicate woman's finger, or perhaps a necklace piece, was found among a scattered group of dusty ashkaveridatics in the chamber. One of the most unusual finds was a blue glass medallion framed in gold. It clearly depicted a woman holding a papyrus scroll in one hand, and a statue of the god Horus in the other. On the back it showed a woman in a long robe seated on a throne with Asmol lion at her feet, a scene not found in any previously known Hellenistic Egyptian medallions. Another remarkable find was a golden hairpin decorated with a snake symbolizing immortality and protection. The top of the pin featured an inlay of blue glass etched with Greek text. Experts recognized the text as epithets commonly associated with Cleopatra. Inside a small red agate, archaeologists discovered a clay seal with a rare image of a woman wearing a crown and holding a double scepter, with the goddess Isis beside her spreading her wings wide. These visual elements were exclusive to the elite of the Tmic dynasty. Among all the gold Anjay stones there were simpler items to a wooden stylus wrapped in gold, a smile mirror inscribed in Greek with Thephares eternal, Cleopatra, and a thin silver plate on the floor. Near the wall, engraved with a double-headed eagle, a symbol of the Hellenistic world at the crossroads of kingdoms. The artifacts stood out, not just for their craftsmanship but for their unique cultural fusion. Egyptian motifs were seamlessly combined with Greek symbolism. Almost every object was inscribed either with Cleopatra's name or title used officially. The richness and of these items led the excavation team to conclude that the woman buried there had extremely high social status. But one last step was needed before drawing final conclusions, deciphering the inscriptions and solving the mystery of the Greek text found in an Egyptian tomb that seemed to be tied to something marked deeper. There was another secret in here, something that contradicted everything previously known about ancient Egyptian history. This mystery, in fact, was the key that could puzzle for years to come, a riddle, a code still drawing global curiosity. At first the team focused on the most promising clue, a charred strip of papyrus stuck between the stone coffin and its base, carefully opened under high-powered magnifying lens. Noticed faintly etched lines. The top section was marked with large Greek letters, but the text beneath became increasingly complex. Some characters appeared deliberately or jumbled, and Egyptian hieroglyphs were mixed in recognizably too. Scholars of the Hellenistic period. The first line clearly displayed Cleopatra's name, along with royal titles, only by the last queen of Egypt. Below that was a mysterious section containing 3 unusual Greek symbols that weren't found in any known historical ciphers. Some team members to partially decode them. The lower part of the sarcophagus lid featured wide engravings, mostly in ancient Greek but also containing cryptic messages. The text included small dots like numerical markers and symbolic images of lotus flowers and scorpions. The words, only one phrase, could easily read, "Here lies the queen, daughter of the gods." Further analysis revealed another coded passage with dotted words and numbers arranged in a way that defied classical formats. The next day was spent manually line and images were sent to top universities across Europe, and the Americas' replies came quickly. No one had ever seen such a blend of symbols and numbers. Even veteran Greek text decoders struggled to make sense of it. In some passages, letters were repositioned within words, hidden symbols revealed names and key clues about the woman's identity. A student from Thessalonica recognized one particular symbol used in Alexandrian religious texts but couldn't explain the logic behind the and numerals. As the TM continued examining the papyrus, new findings appeared on the back wall of the chamber. Behind a niche that held a golden artifact, there under a layer of old plaster, they uncovered a thin marble tablet. After careful restoration, it revealed part of a Greek inscription written in metallic pigment. The inscription had just 6 words, but their order didn't follow standard sentence structure, as the last letters formed the shape of a scorpion and a lotus flower. The group spent nearly a full day analyzing both the sarcophagus engravings and the papyrus fragments. The writers of the text had clearly scrambled the sequence of letters and words, embedding at least 2 layers of encrypted characters and interchangeable bursts. Some of the lower lines on the papyrus revealed hints about finding Thassel in the temple near the sun. The team believed this might point to an burial location nearby. The Greek term apatheo appeared often linked to the deification rituals of Hellenists. That night the team faced yet another puzzle. Hidden beneath a thin layer of alabaster in the center of the room was a second, shorter inscription carved into a flat tablet. The words were surrounded by the figure of a dark-skinned woman resembling Cleopatra. This was the first known case of such a complicated web of coded references in Egyptian inscriptions. One part of the text could only be read under specific lighting angles to decode it. Archaeologists also found an ancient golden seal in a box of amulets. One CD of the seal had a series of 9 engraved Greek letters and 2 Egyptian symbols. When matched with lines on the papyrus, the text revealed that every second letter was repeated and the symbols represented missing syllables. This rare chessboard-style cipher technique was unique to secret communications in Thomas. On the third day, experts reached a consensus. An international team would work for weeks to decode the papyrus inscriptions. In wall engravings, cryptographers, Hellenistics, epigraphers took turns trying to crack the mystery. Some phrases were finally translatable. Daughter of Julia, with her son, the throne is hidden from enemies, eternal remembrance. One wooden fragment displayed the name Tammy, written in feminine Greek style. Cleopatra as both the daughter of a pharaoh and a descendant of Alexander the Great. As the meaning of the temple inscription sparked debate among scholars, Egypt's Minister of Antiquities imposed strict security around the site. Meanwhile, the internet flooded with theories about the decoded message. Some suggested it was a ritual spell, others thought it outlined steps for hiding royal power. Still, no one could explain why the encryptions were so complex or why multiple alphabets and encryption layers. Whereas it all at once the question remained, what created this code and who was it height for? In the end, unlocking these messages could very well add new Nemito, the historical records of great women of antiquity, and give us deep insights into the true motives and fate of Egypt's final queen. To many seasoned archaeologists, it all seemed like science fiction. But once the excitement of the discovery settled, lab teams from Europe, North America, and the Middle East began what may be the most revolutionary analysis in Egyptology. 3 days after opening the tomb, experts transferred bone and hair samples to Amabile lab station near the walls of the Papyrus Magna. Right away, biologists were surprised by how well preserved their remains were. Skull fragments, teeth, and femur bones were barely damaged by time. Thick resin on the bones was scraped away using microscopic scalpels. The stunning discovery: the resin's upper layer, which acted like a preservative, contained rare microparticles of a sensitive compound never found in similar excavations. Experts from London and Athens arrived at the same time to collect matching samples for parallelism, reducing error risk. Within a week, a microscopy lab in Florence confirmed the decoded DNA belonged to a woman aged 42-45 with distinctive Semitic traits and refined Mediterranean features. Her eye color, based on pigment indicators, was a deep olive brown. Her hair showed traces of natural black dye with occasional hints of chestnut. The painstaking process included a DNA analysis not only to confirm sex and age but also to check for genetic links between the discovered bones and known members of the Tamaic lineage. By the second week, labs in Cambridge and Alexandria began comparing. We identified genetic markers with DNA from ancient mummies matching mitochondrial DNA markers were found in museums in London, Cairo, and Berlin, showing more than 80% similarity with remains of women from the Hellenistic royal line, especially one rare double mutation previously documented. In only 2 women had served in the court of Alexander the Great and were both recorded under the name Tammy. This detail caught immediate attention. Further tests revealed an extremely rare genetic mix typical of Greek Macedonian aristocracy. From Hellenistic Egypt, geneticists quickly concluded that the similarities between the woman discovered and a mummy believed to be Cleopatra III exceeded 90%. Based on matching skeletal marker, skull structure and nose shape, these physical traits were a perfect match with Cleopatra's depictions on coins and statues, which are known for a long chin-high forehead and distinct nose curve. To verify these results, DNA testing was also conducted on the remains of a child found in a hidden chamber. The genes along the maternal line were a perfect match, confirming that the child was directly descended from the main burial figure. The mystery deepened with discovery of a third partially preserved skeleton, which indicated origins from the Mediterranean and Middle East. The remains found at the Papyrus Magna temple belonged to a woman from the Tmic dynasty whose genotypes matched those of known descendants of Cleopatra. The key confirmation came from a detailed comparison of teeth and hair isotope analysis showed that woman had lived most of her life in northwestern Egypt, near Alexandria. Traces of tetric lineage and fine elements in her tooth enamel matched the diet, typical of Hellenistic elites. With this compelling evidence, the research team officialized the Papyrus Magna remains to their court of ancient royal figures for the first time. As soon as the findings were presented to the public, global headlines exploded announcing what appeared to be the discovery of direct Descendants of Queen Cleopatra scientists held a press conference at the excavation site showing genetic data and images to support that the DNA from the bones matched unique mutations in the TMIC Hellenistic bloodline. It also aligned with data from mummies found in Alexandria and Memphis. Following this revelation, the Egyptian Ministry of Antiquities closed public access to the temple. The decaples were transferred to the National Archives in Cairo for preservation despite needing an official confirmation. Inscriptions. The scientific community was now largely convinced that the genetic remains belonged to Cleopatra, the last queen of the TMIC dynasty. This archaeological breakthrough sparked both excitement and controversy. Skeptics called for deeper investigation, while enthusiastic supporters imagined this as the beginning of uncovering more secrets about one of the most iconic women of the ancient world. Since then, attention has been focused on Theta Posiris Magna Temple, which continues to guard its mysteries within its stone walls. Once news of the discovery spread into the excavation camp, the debate moved onto the global stage, into academic journals and science labs worldwide. Even before the first photos of the sarcophagus and artifacts had fully circulated, online top Egyptologists were already expressing conflict views. Supporters of the discovery quickly hailed it as the archaeological find of the century, calling for updates to school textbooks and pushing major universities in London, New York, and Athens to organize online tours and educational reforms. On the other hand, critics accused the team of seeking fame. *. Thanks for watching. See you in next one.